There is a tiny chink laying dormant in the Constitution. When a bill goes to the president, he has 10 days to sign it, excluding Sundays.
You look at Adventist understanding of end-time events and we're like, I don't know, can this really happen? Can this really happen?
First time a fine.
I think we have a lot of indication that this can very quickly happen.
Second time a fine and a horsewhipping.
President, suggested a national Sabbath.
And third time execution. Most democracies have a lifespan of about 200 years. But of course, prophetically speaking, it's a pretty big deal. Hey, welcome to Unscripted from the Adventist Review. I'm Shawn Boonstra.
I'm Jonathan Walter.
And today is, I think, as of release date, if you're watching this when it's brand new and fresh, today is July 3. And that's a pretty big day, isn't it? Because, like,
it's in
24 hours.
Yeah. What's in 24 hours, Shawn?
In 24 hours, America turns 250. Now, I know you're watching all over the world, but bear with me because, after all, America is in prophecy, and we're going to talk about that a little bit today, about American history, why the country exists, where it might be headed, prophetically speaking, and within hours, this country, where we happen to be sitting today, is going to be throwing a massive party, 250 years. And that's a big deal because, historically speaking, it's been projected that most democracies, and America's not a democracy, but most democracies have a lifespan of about 200 years. I think Athens, its peak only ran 200 years.
Right.
So America, you beat the odds, 250 years of self-rule. But of course, prophetically speaking, it's a pretty big deal.
It is.
What's going on. And we're both immigrants.
We're both not Americans. I was going to say that. Well, you are American, I think, technically.
Okay, no, I am an American citizen, but I'm not born here.
Right.
And I've been an American for, oh, goodness, how long now? 7 years.
All right.
7 years.
Yeah.
That means that it's...
Baby American.
That's perfect. Yeah, baby American. It should be over now. But
yes.
I come from an immigrant family. I have had 3 different citizenships over the course of my life. And I think you hold a whole bunch too.
I do, but I don't hold the American citizenship. I'm here as a permanent resident.
Okay. But we can still say we have an outsider's perspective. I didn't get here until I was 35.
I would say so. Yeah.
35. And you got here when?
I was younger than that. I was in my 20s.
All right.
Yeah.
So what you'll find at AdventistReview.org is actually an article right now, and we're not going to read it to you because you can read it for yourself. But Dwight Nelson wrote a little bit about a birthday in America and asks the question: is the U.S. blessed or condemned? That's a good question. What do you think?
It's a great question. It's also a question that I think it has been discussed a lot since prophecy, a book of Revelation describes this earth beast, and it describes it as lamb-like, but also dragon-like. And then there's a big discussion about, when is it Christian, when is it not Christian? Did it become like a dragon? Was it a dragon from the beginning? There's all these or speaking like a dragon from the beginning, all these kind of dynamics, and it's an interesting discussion. Dwight, I think, lays it out pretty clearly and shows us from prophecy, describes the only nation that it can, be is the United States of America, for that second beast of Revelation.
He lays out the identifiers. And I think one of the things that he does, and Dwight, I love you, it's a great article, and you don't say what I'm about to say, but he almost leans in the direction of it's always been a dragon, and I am absolutely not in that camp at all. I do believe that the lamb-like portion was genuinely lamb-like, that this started as God's intent for his people. After all, if we go to Revelation chapter 12, it says the earth opened up to help the woman. Yeah. We know where the persecuted fled. It's not like the devil opened up the new world so the persecuted could escape the dragon. And when I look at the history of America, it is built on the writings of the English dissenters. And I know that they're Protestants. And I know that a lot of people today say, oh, no, it's built on the principles of the Enlightenment. It's entirely secular. And, well, you can only come to that conclusion if you never read American history. Even Thomas Paine, the atheist. I mean, we've been told likely we're not going to see Thomas Paine again. He ends up in completely the wrong camp, but even he says that the Bible was the best foundation to build this republic on. And one of the key strings, and you can disagree, leave your comments, below, and if you really are not agreeing, then write your complaint letters to Jonathan Walter, 12501 Old Columbia Pike, Silver Spring, Maryland.
And they will be forwarded directly to you.
Yeah, no, but no, the history says as much. I mean, if you read, for example, the comments that Ellen White makes about the history of America, she says that the Constitution of America is a Protestant and Republican document, which
Right.
sent me searching. Is that so? So one of the things that happens is that the Church of England rebels for all the wrong reasons. Henry VIII wants out, right? And I want out, and not for the right reasons. He wants an annulment for his marriage. He wants an heir. It's like for all the wrong reasons. But in England, Bible-believing Christians get their hopes up just a little bit.
Right.
Just a little bit. It's like, hey, we're going to be free like those German princes who, threw off the yoke of the Roman prince, and they're going to be free.
And he had Protestants in his court too, or maybe secret Protestants, but people who were sympathetic towards the
Absolutely, right? We had a real variety of faiths blossoming in England, from early Baptists and Barrowists and Fifth Monarchists. Fifth Monarchists, by the way, that's a sect named because they believed that the next world empire would be the stone of Daniel chapter 2.
Fascinating.
So all these groups, and they get their hopes up. We're going to be free. But what Henry builds in the wake of separation is almost worse. They get the Common Book of Prayer, and they're told, look, you can believe in your head whatever you want. But when it comes time to worship, you will do what you're told, and there is no actual liberty. So the big debate that breaks out in England, and we're summarizing a lot of history, but
you are.
Yeah, I am. But the debate that breaks out is it okay to get rid of the king?
Right.
And that's a big debate. Some people, like William Blake, the poet, say, no, Lucifer wanted to overthrow authority, so that's a Luciferian move to get rid of the king. But the rest of them started reading 1 Samuel 8. And the reason they're reading 1 Samuel 8 is because they've been fleeing persecution, going to the Netherlands. Yay! I'm Dutch. Going to the Netherlands and meeting Jews who were escaping the Inquisition, and they started studying together and had access to the Hebrew Scriptures. And they see God's displeasure when Israel chooses a king. So the question is, maybe we're not supposed to have one. And that is the roots of it. There's another passage, Deuteronomy 17, that God anticipates they would ask for a king. Doesn't mean he wanted it. He says, but one day when you get a king, here are the rules. He can't be foreign born. There's got to be checks and balances. And it's funny, it describes different divisions of government. The dissenters began to dream of a world without a king, and their writings asked the question, what if? The American founders, even though many of them weren't actually Bible-believing Christians, they're deists, they take those writings and they draft a good chunk of the Constitution out of the writings of these early Protestants who wanted freedom. But then, of course, that doesn't mean they got everything right, does it?
No, I mean, and this is, I think, what brings it up, and I don't disagree with him that, it was lamb-like. There was Christian values, Christian ideas, and I believe that God did open that portal. Yep. But He was still using, humans that are flawed, and even though, they were champions for religious liberty, or some of them were, others were not. Not everything was smooth sailing, and then, of course, we do have things like slavery. And how the natives were treated. Not saying that the natives were treating each other much better, but there were definitely issues that I would say are not very Christ-like. Yet, the United States became a haven of for persecuted people. It became a haven for individuals seeking religious liberty, amongst other things, and has provided the world with so much light because of it. So, the Protestant denominations were able to freely worship here, and now still can, of course.
For now.
And for now, there's still religious liberty. Some people, ask sometimes, hey, what's going on in America? Is it, is this the end? And I believe we're in the end. But is it the end? We'll see. I wouldn't speculate. But things are pointing in a certain direction, I would say, in the current political, religious landscape. 250 years in, where I would say we are probably headed towards more of a Revelation 13 showdown.
I think that's accurate. You brought up an interesting point, and we didn't get everything right. And I always get a raised eyebrow these days when I say America, the American Republic in its infancy, in its conception, I think was God's idea. And people go, how could you say that? Because the world's anti-American these days.
Of course.
I'm not saying we got it right. You brought up slavery. The Quakers showed up at the Constitutional Convention and said, if you mean this, then slavery can't be an issue. If you really mean personal liberty, if you're going to build a place where everybody's directly answerable to God and is free, you can't include slavery. And they did the wrong thing. They hedged. They said, no, the South will never join if we ban it now. So they kicked it down the road 20 years. It's actually written into the document. We won't talk about this for 20 years. And that created all kinds of pain and heartbreak. The original colonies, Virginia had a Sunday attendance law for church.
Of
right?
course.
You will be in church, and the penalty was first time a fine, second time a fine and a horsewhipping, and third time execution.
Oh dear.
Yeah, for not going to church on Sunday.
Oh, that's something
so,
that's...
the dragon's already dropping little seeds in there.
For sure.
Mary Dyer, the Quaker. Quakerism was banned in the city of Boston, and she goes to preach, and they hung her. They hung her. So these things happened here.
Yes.
But then I look at Old Testament history, and there's zero question that the Israelites were God's people. Did they get it wrong right out of the gate? Yes, they did. Right? How many days into the desert before they're whining?
Right. 3? 2.5?
Yeah, I know. It's like, and Lord, how could you abandon us? And then idol worship and doing everything wrong. Here's what I find curious. I think, maybe I'm wrong, but I think what you have is Old Testament history, and then you have the book of Revelation using the same language, say, that Jeremiah used. Jeremiah calls Israel a prostitute. Let's just be blunt about it.
Right.
You're unfaithful. What does Revelation reveal the church to be in the last days? A prostitute.
Yes.
Both Israel and the New Testament church repeat the same history, the same sins, because once human ego gets involved, once human sin gets involved, you've got a big problem.
We just have to be careful not to equate United States with Israel in terms of Old Testament Israel. United States is not the equivalent of Old Testament Israel. We're not they may claim a nation under God, but it's not. God has not chosen America as a nation to be the new Israel or anything like that.
No. Israel was a theocracy. You're right. You're quite right to point that out. It was an actual theocracy. And we are not. We're not to be that. It wasn't supposed to be that way. Now, the founders toyed with that idea, though. The original Virginia seal had Moses leading the children of Israel across the sea.
It's a tempting illustration to use in considering the circumstances that they were in.
Yeah. So what trends do you see that concern you? We won't name names. We're not going to take sides in
You don't
politics.
want to name names? I'd love to name names.
No. Right now, the temperature, if you're watching from outside the country, the temperature's hot. It wouldn't matter who I mentioned, I'm going to get hate mail. It just doesn't matter. But
that
trends,
will happen.
let's talk trends about things that, because I can tell you one that I'm concerned about. Right now, there seems to be this attitude that if somebody has a different opinion than me, they need to be shut down, maybe even lose their job. We'll call their employer, we'll get them fired. They've got the wrong opinion. For a little while, we're like, Amazon, kick them off, get their website off of your servers because we don't know. And I get that there are opinions that I find offensive, but the minute I want to root out everybody's offensive opinion, how long until somebody finds mine offensive?
Correct.
And I think it's a dangerous game to play. So the price of liberty is putting up
with the crazy for a while.
Yeah, crazy is a good word for some of what's out
in this context, freedom of speech must allow the freedom of some crazy speech as well. But at the same time, what I see, one big concern I have is the mingling, the very obvious mingling of religion and politics that we are seeing. Now, I have no problem with politicians being religious. That's probably a good thing for the most part. But we are now seeing in American politics and in American government this mindset of theocracy and this idea that even some unfulfilled Old Testament prophecies we are meant to fulfill now. Just with this recent Iran conflict, there was very strong language, suggesting this is preparing Armageddon and those kind of things, and that's a very questionable.
Now we need to do a show on dispensational thought.
And I think we will in September, but it's coming up.
Coming up, dispensational thought, yes. And that absolutely is playing a key into how people perceive the Christian religion in the West.
But even just recently, the president, suggested a national day of national Sabbath rest day. He's encouraging the Jews to keep a national day for the nation. And you have the kind of language. You have this Project 2025 document that came out a couple of years ago that suggested more blue laws and this idea of Sunday laws. It's still out there. And 20, 25 years ago, you may have looked at Adventist understanding of end-time events and be like, I don't know, can this really happen? Can this really happen? I think we have a lot of indication that this can very quickly happen if the circumstances are right.
I think when last day events play out, it's going to fall into place very quickly.
Yes.
The counsel that we've got is, hey, It's going on in the background. You're going to be shocked by how fast it drops into place. I don't know how shocked I would be anymore about it dropping into place. And it's interesting because here's what I hear all the time. This is a Christian nation. And I can say, and bear with me, hear me out, I can say amen to that. It is. But not the way that modern Christians think. Even, I mentioned it earlier, even Thomas Paine said this is a Christian nation, and here's why. In the 1600s, 1700s, these English Protestants were saying, hey, you know, and not just them, in Spain, in the Netherlands, and other places, they were reading the Old Testament saying, you know, the Hebrews had a republic. They called it the Hebrew Republic, and they said, everybody's answerable to God. Even the king, when he was there, had to make a copy of the law and write it in a book. Even he is under the law.
Yeah.
They had a republic with a supreme written law, which was the Torah.
Yes.
And they said, well, that's what we need to pattern it after, where every individual is directly answerable to God. The church does not drive the state does not drive the church. They stay in their lanes. That's what they meant by Christian nation in the beginning. Even the deists, Benjamin Franklin, others, saying this is a Christian nation.
That reality is gone.
Yeah, that is not what a lot of people mean now when they say Christian nation. They mean it's time for the church and a certain brand of the church to seize the reins of government and set everybody right.
To be honest, a brand that is not very biblical and can't really call themselves Christian, but they do.
No, I'd concur with that.
Yeah. And the prophecy is very clear. It says that there will be, it calls it, calls out this fallen form of Protestantism, fallen form of the church, and it will play a big role in the last days as persecution, all these things take place.
I find it interesting. There's a little chink in the Constitution, and I'm a big fan of the Constitution. And guys, you can write your complaint letters, but I'm here as an American on purpose. I believe in the American experiment the way it was originally formulated. Freedom of religion, freedom for me to live out my faith before God as my conscience dictates, not as Jonathan Walter dictates, as the king dictates, or the government dictates.
Yeah.
But there is a tiny chink I've noticed that's laying dormant in the Constitution. When a bill goes to the president, if I'm remembering this right, he has 10 days to sign it, excluding Sundays.
Fascinating.
Fascinating that's just, and I see somebody one day saying, aha, see, it's constitutional, it's already in there that Sunday is different. Go look it up.
I've never heard that before. That's very interesting.
Yeah, go take a look at it. I noticed that the other, I took government and law, and I dropped out of law though because I just didn't see, it's more fun to do this. I don't have to be right. I just have to offer my opinion. So,
well, on that note, happy birthday, America.
Happy birthday, America, 250.
Right.
Yep. I'm almost as old as America. Yeah. Jonathan's like a little younger.
A little bit. But
what else do you want to talk about today?
I really enjoyed an article that came in by Jonathan Quintero talking about secularism and seeing seculars through the eyes of Jesus.
Tell me about it.
And Jonathan Quintero is an interesting guy. He's the associate director for the Center for Secular and Post-Christian Mission. So this is part of the global church. We have these centers that focus on how to reach different religions. And we have, as a church, recognized secularism, while not being a religion per se, is the third largest group of people in the world. Behind Christianity and Islam, you have secularists, and they are in all kinds of cultures and within religious cultures and religions. It's the secularists. They're essentially people who are maybe either fed up religion or don't care, but they another term that I've heard that is connected to secularism, and I just recently heard this term, is how do you call it? It's apatheism. So basically, it's not atheism, but it's...
Can you say that 3 times fast?
Apatheism. There you go.
Yeah. Okay.
It's people who are kind of like, they just do not care. They're apathetic towards religion, but they're not necessarily close to the idea. It's too much. It's just too much. And so secularists, people who are, for whatever reason, not necessarily affiliated with a religion, is like almost 2 billion people in the world. And we have to reach them. And so Jonathan Quintero here, he shares, a powerful story of an example of a secular person finding Christ and finding the truth in our church, but also he lays out the need for us to reach out and to understand this great challenge that we have as a church to reach secular people where they are. And this is his point. He's saying, do not just, we can pray for them, and that's important, but we also have to be where they are. In his story of this lady in Switzerland, in Lausanne, she comes in contact with an Adventist who is a music teacher.
Right.
And it's all about music lessons, but those music lessons turn into conversations that lead to spiritual interest. And he's saying, as Adventists, and most Adventists do not work for the church like us,
Right.
but they're out there in the world, and they have an opportunity to utilize where they are to reach the people around them. So yes, you can mingle with them as Jesus did. You can help them in whatever they need help with, but use these relationships to prayerfully lead people into conversations that point to something else that's beyond themselves.
There is a statement in the article that I highlighted. It says, numbers are numbers until you know them personally. And that struck me.
That is the
spent
truth.
30 years in evagelism, and people, you guys are all about numbers. Yes and no. Yes, because I used to joke, and it is just a joke. If God wasn't interested in numbers, why did he name a whole book numbers? I know that's not good thinking.
That.
It's just, but numbers are people.
Yes.
And that struck home. Numbers are not, people say, how many people came to your meeting, Shawn? I've seen anywhere from, I've had 7 come and I've had 16,000 come.
Mm-hmm.
And I always pray, Lord, I need to know them all. I need to know them as individuals.
Yes.
And when you get into the home and you meet them, you realize why numbers matter. Numbers are people. It's not just a statistic. I'm not trying to get a number for a report.
Yes.
Those people need Jesus, and they matter.
Yeah.
God knows every hair on their head, let alone their name. And he knows what they're dealing with. Now, here's when it comes to seculars, though, I've often said, hey, be careful. Do more listening than talking.
Absolutely.
Because there's very few truly secular people, very few. If they're truly secular, you don't have magic words to convert them. The Holy Spirit converts. Paul's very clear in 1 Corinthians 2, look, spiritual things are spiritually understood. They're foolishness to the secular mind.
Yes.
But you need to be there and listen, because there will come a moment where they ask the spiritual question. Let them lead that discussion.
Yes.
Let them lead it.
And ask questions.
Yeah, God will show. But preaching at them won't work.
No.
Listening and genuine friendship will bring you to the moment where you will be present when they begin to ask.
Yes.
And I think that's why it's important to invest yourself in as many lives as you can.
And the danger of secularism is, it's not just, those out there. I think secularism can creep into our lives too.
Oh, sure.
It begins as soon as I see my choices and my desires as the law. As soon as I enthrone self, I am becoming secular.
Well, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Unpack that a little bit.
I'm centering things around me and who I am, which is the secularist idea. Secularists are not necessarily immoral. They have moral standards, but they make a lot based upon their personal, desires and their personal feelings and what they want. And that is something that I think we're all prone to as sinful human beings, that we can easily enthrone self. Even within the church, it has to be my way. It has to be my desires, my wishes that are followed, and so that danger. I pray that I will not fall into that, but I could see it creeping in.
That's a fascinating way to look at some of, the disputes that break out in a church, some of the interpersonal friction that happens, and you're right. It's like, is my understanding of a relationship with God the only one?
Right.
Or does he work with Jonathan different than he works with Shawn? Does he relate to me on a different front? There are 12 gates going into the city with 12 tribes. They all have different personality traits as you read the book of Numbers. And so my way?
And another thing that I found fascinating that I learned from this article is that they instead of transcendence, they look for authenticity. Now, authenticity, there's nothing wrong with that. We need more of that in the church. However, if you're just being authentic, which is a trigger word for you, I know.
Watch Authentic at voiceofprophecy.com.
Yeah, no. in a formal life.
Yeah.
But authenticity it can be a good thing. But if it's all just about, I'm sharing of, my feelings or who I am, and I make then that my identity, I'm staying within my cycle, and I'm not becoming, I'm not being transformed, I'm not being changed. I'm just staying within that identity that I claim is me, right? Whereas through transcendence, through connecting with God, we can be authentic with God, we can be honest with each other, but it's about a journey towards Christ-likeness, right? And so helping them see that there is a way out of, just being you, me being me, towards, you becoming like Jesus. That's the beauty of, I think, what we can bring to the table. But it has to be, and this is where authenticity is also true from a Christian perspective towards secularists, is that we have to also showcase that this transformation can be real. And I think that's the proof they want to see.
Well, people can smell an act on you a mile away.
Exactly.
They can. And it's okay. If you're relating to people, it is okay to say, I don't know. It's okay to admit that you make mistakes. I'm not a big believer in rehearsing your sins. I mean, why give the devil airtime for the way he ruined your life?
Right.
But to be honest, saying, well, I struggle with that too. Yeah, I get angry at that too. It's not right, but I do. Now they can relate to you as a human being. You are not Jesus. That's not what you're not leading them to you.
Yes.
In fact, it's the difference between worship and idolatry. Idolatry is remaking God in your image.
Yes.
Right? It's like, God's like me.
Mm-hmm.
When the goal is for you to be
like him.
Yeah. And he's big enough for everybody that wants to come.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
No, we do. I've rewritten God in my own image more than once. We all do
many times.
But be honest with people. Admit what you don't know. Admit that you're human. People always say in your meetings, why is it that you take 2-3 minutes at the beginning and say that you yelled at your kids this morning? It's because I want them to realize I'm not the object of this meeting.
Right.
Jesus is.
Yes.
I'm human too, and I struggle with the same things you do.
Yeah. I think as a church we have to drop the polished act. Now, of course, we want to set a high standard, and we want to live up to Jesus's, to the Word of God and the high standards that we are called to. But at the same time, we can be authentic about the fact that we may be struggling. There may be issues, but always knowing Christ forgives, Christ transforms, Christ uplifts. This is, it's just honesty.
Yep.
And I love seeing that with my kids. I've yelled at them. I've made mistakes, and I cry about it. Because, like, why would I do this? Why does this come out? But then I've talked to my children about it, and what Papa just did, I got loud. I am sorry. I should not have done that, right? That was a mistake.
You can get loud?
I can.
I'm going to have to see if I can provoke you to the point that you yell at me, because I've not seen loud Jonathan.
I yell about Shawn when he leaves. I just scream into this box like, ah!
Yeah. They have a counselor full-time at the Adventist Review now, ever since I've arrived.
Yes, we all need a lot of help. But so do you. But,
But, here's why I know, and we've got seconds left. Here's why I know the Bible's not a work of propaganda. If it was, it would have painted the story of a million saints. Mm-hmm. But there they are. Noah gets drunk. David commits adultery. They're human beings.
That's the truth.
And without rehearsing or celebrating sin, you can admit that you need Jesus as much as everybody else. And that authenticity brings people much faster than knowing everything.
Yeah.
Much faster. So,
absolutely.
Hey, listen, we are running out of time. You got to go to AdventistReview.org and take a look at everything there. You got to click subscribe. And if you think America's on the rails and now speaking like a dragon, well, tell us. If you still think there's some lamb-like qualities, tell us. And we're just glad that you join us every week. AdventistReview.org. And I'm Shawn Boonstra.
I'm Jonathan Walter.
No S on the end, right?
No S,
it's
correct.
Just Jonathan Walter. But if you want, call him Jonathan Walters in the comments. He loves that. He absolutely loves that. And
make sure you call Shawn German, not Dutch.
No, well, I am part German. I'm 1/4 German.
Yeah, but you brag with Dutch much more than German.
Oh yeah, no. I'm more Dutch. I'm actually more Frisian than anything. We are out of time. Until next time, click subscribe. We'll see you again.
Thanks for joining us today for Unscripted. We invite you to check out all the other offerings from the Adventist Review online 24 hours a day at adventistreview.org.